I cannot sing and I cannot dance, so I'll review these albums instead. No, that one sounded too terrible. I got it. Fine Young Cannibals. I cannot sing and I cannot dance. Oh, I can't do it either, so I will review instead. 1989, eat your heart out. Hello, welcome to the MJ Rowe Show, and here's the start of a new series called What the Flop, where we review the career-killing albums that destroyed the momentum of initially pop megastars or artists who at least raked in tons of acclaim and seemed to be on the rise, but then suddenly plummeted with releases like this. And in fact, this will be the most recent one in this series, of this particular album coming out this year, in fact a few months ago. So if this artist resurges in future, then apologies, that was a bad prediction. But anyway, this is No Shame by Lily Allen. Lily Allen is the daughter of British comedian and actor Keith Allen, and is somewhere along the line a distant relative of Sam Smith. But in the mid to late 2000s, she was a pop megastar in this country, and I mean absolutely massive. Her first two albums sold 1 million copies in this country each. She was constant tabloid fodder, and in fact, she even got her own chat show at some point. Admittedly, it was only an online one for BBC Three, but that still doesn't change the point. And also, Brit Award winner as well, winning Best Female in 2009, beating Florence and the Machine. And that's because her first two albums, All Right Still and the follow-up, It's Not Me As You, were modern pop masterpieces. There's a perfect blend of styles, mixing in the usual electropop that was becoming popular at the time, with a bit of reggae, ska, hip-hop elements, and even doing a country song called Not Fair. This eclectic mix of genres, and lyrics that were conversational, farcical, and very blunt and biting, contrasting with the very sweet, almost fairy-like voice. This created a sense of dark humour from the contrast, and as I said, it just made her stand out so much against all the rest of the pop crowd, not following trends, but leading them. In fact, not too long ago, she was still on this high. In 2013, she had her first UK #1, and arguably her biggest selling single, with a cover of Somewhere Only We Know by Keane, reaching #1 after featuring in the John Lewis Christmas ad of that year. So how did we get as to where we are today? Where before, each of her albums was selling 1 million copies each, whereas her most recent one, No Shame, entered the charts at #6, but then the next week dropped like a stone to 48, and then boom, straight out like a cannonball down the hall. First track on the album is an electro-pop track, quite glitchy and skittering, and very pop when you get to the chorus. In the Robin sense, in that it's almost quite self-aware that it's a pop track, but it still sounds very good in doing it. And speaking of self-referential, this track is very self-deprecating, talking about all the things that social media and the press have been saying about her, how she's a bad mum, how she's a bad wife, etc, 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 which were topics becoming more relevant to Lily around this time, considering she had recently divorced, but also become a new mother as well. And this makes it a very, very Lily-like track, because despite all these bitter lyrics, it maintains quite a gentle feel throughout. Gentle and poppy, contrasting with the dark and biting. So far it's actually quite a good start, I'd say. It's still essentially Lily, but it's quite different from some of her previous stuff, as in it's continuing on from the sound in the album before this, Yeezus, which was more pop-focused. So this is one of the tracks that suggests an almost full transition in sound. An idea that Lily, like so many other artists, well, like so many good artists I should say, has continued to evolve their sound without sticking to the same thing. So this track actually sets the album off on a good start. Another thing that makes this album different from Lily's previous albums is the presence of guest vocalists, particularly rappers, which was particularly a relevant choice to 2017, considering the grime revival had been in full swing for the past 2 years, from Skepta to Stormzy. Yeah, ring in it. Yeah, that's not me in it. Went to the show sitting in the front row when the Brits and I don't win no awards. Fire in the garden. Yeah, backup dancer. So the album features guest vocals from Burna Boy, Lady Chan, and most significantly on this next track, Trigger Bang, Gigs, one of the key features in the UK grime scene and been going massively since 2010. This adds a new layer to the sound, which again is a very Lily thing, as said, mixing eclectic genres together. And so on this track we get an official sense of what this album is supposedly going to sound like throughout. It's very heavily electropop, with a sort of like echoey, highly produced layer added to her vocals, and lyrics that are very confrontational, personal and confessional, all about her own problems. In fact, I think drugs are mentioned in the mix in this one. However, the confessional side of this album really mega comes through in the middle tracks, which are all about her family issues and relationships, one of which is the song Family Man, largely a piano ballad, though more elements are gradually added in, including violins and a bit of a chanting choir. In fact, this was one of the first songs written for the album, so you can clearly tell that this was the sort of topic and region that the lyrics were intended to go to for this project. Definitely quite an interesting song lyrically, definitely, because although there is a bit biting in parts, on the whole it's maybe slightly more sympathetic. Like I said, the title, Family Man, is about how hard it is to be a family man, as if taking the father's side in a divorce and issue, as well as her own. And I'm getting really tired of saying this, this too is a typically Lily sound, with a lot of her albums, or previous albums, also featuring piano ballads about relationships falling apart, particularly on Alright Still, that being the track's Littlest Things, adding a sweet touch to a situation so sour. However, shortly after this one, we then have another piano ballad, this time called Free, and however this one is more fully minimalistic, focusing on just the piano as opposed to adding in these gradual elements over time. But I'd say I personally think it's better done here, and like her previous album Yeezus, the subject matter here is motherhood, or more the issues she is having surrounding it, considering her celebrity status, so trying to maintain that, but also trying to give her children enough attention as well. And this, like how the Family Man is told from the husband's perspective in a way, this one is told from the child's perspective, and so this definitely makes it the most effective track lyrically, being both sweet and heartbreaking simultaneously, although its impact is slightly lessened by the fact that it's placed right beside another ballad with Family Man, so one leading almost to another too soon. However, speaking of which, this then goes straight into another ballad, and not just that, another ballad about a failing relationship, this time with the song Apples, and this one isn't a piano, it's instead done with acoustic strums. However, this too is done totally minimalistically, which can make it quite a drag to listen to. Which is a shame, because this one should be intriguing lyrically, considering it is quite shockingly compares her own divorce to the one of her parents, which should make for quite a harrowing listen. However, even the total minimalism does draw in some attention to the lyrics. As said, it makes it drag as a listen and effectively makes it an in one ear, out the other track. Which is especially worse because it's dampened by the fact that it's right next to, or in this exact same region as, two other ballads. On some of the tracks that aren't ballads and are instead a bit more upbeat, as in a lot of this album, these take on the typically Lily sound, as in not just all the mixing of new sounds or the ballads, but as in exact elements that made Lily Allen sound what it is. What you're waiting for is a ska-influenced electropop track, mixing in the usual reggae horns and the ragga tempo, and again has an almost innocent-sounding, shimmering poppy chorus despite the subject matter. This continues on to the Lady Chan featuring track Waste, a funky and reggae in style, feels uplifting, of a usual light poppy feel before she then talks about breaking someone's back. And despite this, as a whole, this album feels like it leans more in the electropop territory, and this is what seems to round it off in the final track, Cake, where you have a glitchy, old-fashioned sounding sample, repeating, looping in the background, which definitely helps the track feel more of the 2010s and the late 2000s, with sampling old stuff repeatedly becoming a major thing because of vaporwave and all that sort of stuff. So, how does this album rank as a whole? Why did it kill Lily's career? Did it really kill Lily's career? Were other forces at work all behind this? Or had this fate already been long awaited? Tune in next time to find out. All on What the Flop. Yeah, it's meant to sound bad. Note, I'm actually only doing part 1 and part 2 because I tried to upload a video that was over 15 minutes and it wouldn't work, so here we go.